Beginning. The knock at 2:17 a.m. It was 2:17 a.m. when someone knocked on my door. Not a timid knock. Not the uncertain tap of a lost neighbor. 3 steady raps.
Calm.
Measured. I remember the exact time because I was awake, staring at the ceiling of my small apartment, unable to sleep. The city outside my window hummed with distant traffic and the faint glow of neon signs. It was an ordinary night in an ordinary part of the world. At least it had been. I lived alone on the 4th floor of a crumbling building near the edge of the industrial district. Rent was cheap. The plumbing wasn't reliable. The walls were thin enough to hear arguments in 3 different languages. But no one ever knocked on my door at 2:17 a.m. I rolled onto my side and checked my phone. No messages. No calls. The hallway camera feed on my tablet showed nothing unusual, just the dim yellow light flickering overhead. Then the knock came again. 3 steady raps. I hesitated. Every bad decision in human history probably started with curiosity. Still, I got up. When I opened the door, I expected a drunk neighbor or a confused delivery driver. Instead, I saw her. She stood barefoot in the hallway, illuminated by the weak ceiling light. At first glance, she looked like a woman in her early 20s, slender, long dark hair cascading over her shoulders, wearing what appeared to be a simple silver dress. But nothing about her was truly human. Her skin shimmered faintly, as if reflecting light that wasn't there. Her eyes were too luminous, soft violet, almost glowing, and the air around her felt charged, like the moment before lightning strikes. She looked at me calmly. "May I spend the night here?" she asked. Her voice was melodic, almost perfectly accented English, but with subtle distortions, as if the words had been carefully assembled rather than learned. I stared at her. "Do I know you?" "No," she said gently. "But I know you." That should have been my cue to shut the door. Instead, I asked the question that changed my life. "Who are you?" She tilted her head slightly. "I am called Lyron, and I require shelter." I should have called the police. Or at least asked more sensible questions. But something in her eyes stopped me. Not manipulation. Not force. Desperation. She wasn't afraid of me. She was afraid of something else. "From what?" I asked quietly. She glanced down the hallway, then back at me. "They are searching." A chill ran down my spine. "Who's searching?" "My kind." I laughed nervously. "Your kind? What does that even mean?" Her gaze locked with mine. "I am not from your world." Silence. I waited for her to smile, to admit it was some elaborate prank. She didn't. Instead, she extended her hand slowly toward me. "Please," she said. "I do not wish to be found." And for reasons I still struggle to explain, I stepped aside. "Okay," I said. "Just for tonight." She entered my apartment. The air changed immediately, subtle, but undeniable, like stepping into a room after a storm has passed. I closed the door, and the universe shifted. Middle, the girl from the sky. We sat across from each other at my small kitchen table. Up close, the details were impossible to ignore. Her pupils weren't round. They shimmered like distant stars. Faint patterns traced along her skin, visible only when she moved. "You're serious," I said finally. "You're not human." "No," she replied. "Then what are you?" She hesitated. "Your languages lack a direct translation, but you may call my species the Erythan." The name felt strange in my mouth. "Why are your people searching for you?" I left without permission. "Why?" Her eyes dimmed slightly. "Because I refused my designated bond." Bond. In my world, pairings are assigned for genetic optimization. I blinked. "You mean marriage?" In your simplified terms, yes. So you ran away from an arranged marriage. She gave a faint nod. That's surprisingly relatable, I muttered. She looked around my apartment with quiet fascination, the cluttered bookshelf, the faded couch, the flickering lamp. This space is inefficient, she observed. Thanks, but it feels alive. I wasn't sure whether to take that as a compliment. You said your people are searching for you, I pressed.
How?
She walked to the window and peered through the glass. They will detect my biosignature. I have suppressed it, but not completely. Suppressed it how? She touched her wrist. A faint pulse of light radiated outward, barely visible. My body emits a frequency. I am reducing its amplitude. I stared at her. So, aliens are scanning my city right now for you? Yes. Great. I stood up and began pacing. Why me? Why this building? Why my door? She turned toward me slowly. Because you would open it. I stopped. How could you possibly know that? Her gaze softened. I have been observing humans for months. That didn't comfort me. Observing how? From orbit. I ran a hand through my hair. You're telling me you watched Earth from space, chose to escape your own species, and somehow ended up knocking on my door at 2:17 in the morning because you predicted I'd let you in? Yes. You sound very sure. I am. Hours passed. She didn't sleep. Instead, she sat on my couch watching the city lights, asking questions about human life. Why do you form bonds without genetic analysis? She asked. Because love isn't math, I said. Explain. I tried.
Badly.
It's about connection. Choosing someone because of how they make you feel, not because some system says you're compatible. She absorbed that quietly. In my world, she said, choice is inefficient. Maybe, I replied, but it's ours. For a moment, silence filled the room. Then every electronic device in my apartment flickered simultaneously. My phone screen lit up with static. The television turned on by itself. Lyron stood abruptly. They are near. A low hum vibrated through the walls, too deep to be mechanical. What does near mean? I asked. She walked toward the door. Within 3 kilometers. 3. A beam of pale blue light swept across the building exterior. Through the window, I saw something impossible, a sleek, disc-shaped craft hovering silently above the rooftops. They will triangulate, she said calmly. My heart pounded. What happens if they find you? They will return me. And if you refuse? Her eyes flickered with something almost like fear. I will not be given the option. I stared at her. Then we don't let them find you. She looked at me as if reassessing everything she thought she knew. You would oppose my kind for me? I swallowed. Guess I'm inefficient like that. We fled through the fire escape as the scanning beam intensified. The night air felt electric. Sirens wailed in the distance, though the city seemed unaware of the true threat overhead. Lyron moved with unnatural grace, barely touching the metal steps. Where can we go? She asked. I know someone, I said. Dr. Kessler. He was an astrophysicist who taught at the university where I work part-time in the archives. Brilliant. Conspiracy-minded. Slightly unhinged.
Perfect.
Dr. Elias Kessler opened his door at 3:04 a.m. with an annoyed expression. This better be world-ending, he grumbled. I stepped aside. He saw her and stopped breathing. You're not human, he whispered. No, Lyron replied. He blinked rapidly. I knew it, he muttered. I knew it. Within minutes, his basement lab buzzed with equipment. Scanners, improvised signal dampeners, experimental EM field generators. They're tracking her biofrequency, he said excitedly. but we can scramble it. Temporarily. Lyran watched him with interest. You possess remarkable ingenuity for a pre-contact species, she observed. Pre-contact. Kessler laughed nervously. Lady, this is contact. The dampening field activated, creating a faint shimmering barrier around the house. Lyran visibly relaxed. For now, she said, I am hidden. But hiding was only delaying the inevitable. Days passed underground. Lyran learned more about humans than she ever had from orbit. She watched old movies, listened to music, asked endless questions. One evening, she turned to me. If I remain, my kind will escalate search protocols. What does escalate mean? They will not remain discreet. Meaning, your governments will notice. I leaned back against the lab wall. So, either they take you quietly or they make it public. Yes. And you still don't want to go back. She shook her head. I do not wish to be assigned. I wish to choose. Choose what? She looked at me. Who I stand beside. The weight of that settled heavily in the room. You barely know me, I said softly. I know enough. And shelter becomes something more. The escalation came faster than expected. Military radar systems worldwide detected unidentified crafts entering low orbit. Governments scrambled jets. Panic spread online. The Aerithan were done being subtle. A transmission broadcast across global networks. Return the defected unit. Noncompliance will result in corrective measures. Unit. That's what they called her. Not daughter. Not citizen. Unit. Lyran watched the broadcast in silence. They will not stop, she said quietly. Then maybe it's time to talk to them, Kessler suggested. You can't be serious, I said. He adjusted his glasses. They're advanced. Rational. If she wants autonomy, maybe they'll listen. Lyran's eyes dimmed. My society values efficiency above all. Individual desire is secondary. I stepped closer to her. Then show them it's not.
How?
By choosing. Publicly. She understood. If she returned willingly but declared her choice, not as a fugitive, but as a self-determining being, it could shift everything. Or doom us all. The meeting took place on the rooftop of my apartment building, the same place where she first arrived. A sleek Aerithan craft descended, bathing the rooftop in pale light. 3 figures emerged, taller and more imposing than Lyran. One stepped forward. Lyran, it said. Your absence disrupts genetic alignment protocols. I am aware, she replied. You will return. She glanced at me briefly. I will return, she said, but not as assigned. Silence. You reject your designated bond? The figure asked. Yes. On what grounds? She took my hand. I have chosen differently. The Aerithan leader's gaze shifted to me. A human. Yes. The air grew tense. This is illogical. It is choice, she replied firmly. You would bind your existence to an inferior species?
She straightened.
They are not inferior. They are unpredictable, emotional,
creative,
free. The leader studied her. And this human would accept such a bond. I swallowed hard. Yes, I said, if it's her choice. A long silence followed. Then something unexpected happened. The leader inclined its head slightly. Your defiance demonstrates adaptive divergence, it said slowly. Perhaps our models require revision. Lyran's grip tightened around my hand. You may remain, the leader continued, under observational accord. I blinked. That's it. I whispered. For now, it replied. The craft lifted, vanishing into the night sky. Weeks later, the world knew. The existence of the Aerithan became public. So did Lyran's choice. Reactions were mixed. Fear, fascination, outrage, hope. But one thing was certain. She was no longer a unit. She was an individual. And she stayed. Not as a refugee hiding in basements, but openly, with me. On quiet nights, we sit on the rooftop and watch the stars. Do you regret it? I asked her once. Regret implies doubt, she said softly. I do not doubt, even if it means being different from your entire species. She looked at me, violet eyes glowing gently. Every evolution begins with one deviation. The night she knocked on my door, I thought I was offering shelter. I didn't realize I was opening the door to something much larger. Not invasion, not conquest,
but change.
The night an alien asked for shelter became the night two worlds learned the meaning of choice. And it all started at 2:17 a.m. with 3 steady knocks.